The views expressed in this show do not necessarily reflect those of the Armenian Council for Truth in Journalism or any other TMI affiliate.
Do any of you have any experience playing ball?
The flu season is upon us. Which type will we worry about this year? And what kind of shots will we be told to take? Remember the swine flu scare of 1976? That was the year the U.S. government told us all that swine flu could turn out to be a killer that could spread across the nation. And Washington decided that every man, woman, and child in the nation should get a shot to prevent a nationwide outbreak, a pandemic. Well, 46 million of us obediently took the shot. And now 4,000 Americans are claiming damages from Uncle Sam amounting to $3.5 billion because of what happened when they took that shot. By far the greatest number of the claims, 2/3 of them, are for neurological damage or even death, allegedly triggered by the flu shot. We pick up the story back in 1976 when the threat posed by the swine flu virus seemed very real indeed.
This virus was the cause of a pandemic in 1918 and 1919 that resulted in over 500,000 deaths in the United States, as well as 20 million deaths around the world.
See how easy it is to...
Thus, the U.S. government's publicity machine was cranked into action to urge all America to protect itself against the swine flu menace.
Influenza is serious business. During major flu epidemics, millions of people are sick and thousands die. Well, this year you can get protection. The vaccines are safe, easy to take, and they can protect you against flu. So roll up your sleeve. Protect yourself.
I don't need another flu shot. I had a flu shot last year. A swine flu epidemic may be coming.
Swine flu shot? Well, I don't know. I've been thinking about it.
It could make you very sick.
Swine flu? Man, I'm too fast today to catch me.
You'll want to be protected.
I'm the healthiest 55-year-old you ever seen. Hey, I play golf every weekend.
Get a shot of protection. The swine flu shot.
Joe brought it home from the office. He gave it to Betty and one of his kids, and to Betty's mother. But Betty's mother went back to California the next day. On her way to the airport, she gave it to a cab driver, a ticket agent, and one of the charming stewardesses. At school, Joe's kid gave it to some other kids, and Mrs. Merrill got it and gave it to her husband. In California, Betty's mother gave it to her best friend, Dottie. But Dottie had a heart condition and she died. But before she died, Dottie gave it to her girlfriend, the mailman, the paper boy, and the vet when she went to pick up her chihuahua.
If a swine flu epidemic comes, this is how it could spread. You'll want to be protected, especially if you're elderly or chronically ill. Get a shot of protection. The swine flu shot.
The rationale for our recommendation was not on the basis of the death of a single individual, but it was on the basis that when we do see a change in the characteristics of the influenza virus, it is a massive public health problem in this country.
Dr. David Senser, then head of the CDC, the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta, is now in private industry. He devised the swine flu program, and he pushed it. You began to give flu shots to the American people in October of 76.
October 1st.
By that time, how many cases of swine flu around the world had been reported?
There had been several reported, but none confirmed. There had been cases in Australia that were reported by the press, by the news media. There were cases in...
None confirmed. Did you ever uncover any other outbreaks of swine flu anywhere in the world?
No.
Now, nearly everyone was to receive the shot in a public health facility where a doctor might not be present. Therefore, it was up to the CDC to come up with some kind of official consent form, giving the public all the information it needed about the swine flu shot. This form stated that the swine flu vaccine had been tested. What it didn't say was that after those tests were completed, the scientists developed another vaccine, And that was the one given to most of the 46 million who took the shot. That fact.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to the D program. I'm Lou Starsky. Thank you for spending some time with us. And it's November 22nd, 2020, day 240-ish of the 2-week lockdown, the initial one, to flatten the curve and to help our hospitals out. At least that's what they told us. But we're actually, we are in the transformative phase of what's being dubbed the Great Reset. And some people call it the New World Order. Some may say they're following Agenda 21 or Agenda 2030. But it's all the same. It's all the same. And it's all a narco-tyranny. It's going to be a new style of technocrats and transhumanist agendas. So there is something exciting about living through this. You cannot deny that life was pretty meaningless. We were just going through the motions, getting up 9 to 5 every fucking day to go work for somebody else to make a lot of money, probably. And then the people that were independently minded, have been hounded by this government, to give up some, they always try to get, whether you're a farmer and they get you in debt, whether you're a student, they get you in debt, whether they, whatever you choose to do, they first get you in debt. And so since that Ponzi scheme is coming to an end, they are now going to reset it. And they're going to eliminate all the Ponzi scheme, overlap of how much debt there is out there compared to how much money's actually out there. So nobody will even pay attention, and they're just going to wipe it down and give us a whole new way of doing it. Cryptocurrency. But this cryptocurrency comes with biosecurity measures. So now with this virus getting in everybody's head, what they're going to end up with in 2030 is a biometric monitoring, money monitoring, as Sean said earlier, a social credit score monitoring, all in one little device, and that's what they're transforming us into. And then after that, who knows? Who knows? But today we are discussing social engineering. We are discussing these guys that are actually doing this, and I'm going to show y'all some clips of how they do it, and it's all going to come to a head of this idea, this concept of what's called the open conspiracy. This is an H.G. Wells book. We're going to get into a little later. I'll get into a little more detail, but. What they decided 100 years ago or so is that it was better to just have an open conspiracy where it's out in the open. And so when I became 20, I started being able to, I was told, hey, look at these particular globalist institutions. They are the ones that are dictating and predicting how life is unfolding. And after 20 years of doing that, you can see all the tells pretty easily. So we are going to show you some clips of them talking and also some new modern ones. And we're going to show you how they've been socially engineering us, manipulating us, using tabletop exercises, to game plan this out so that they can get every, I dotted and every T crossed. So that was a clip from 60 Minutes. I felt like it was going too long. Every time I'm in the lab, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. But then it starts playing, and then I see, I see people kind of tuning in and out. So, it's I cut it a little short, but that is that was a 60-minute expose that they did on this 1976 swine flu, which is very, very similar to what's going on now. It's almost like their very first attempt. And a lot of the same situations where you have a lot of neurological damage and all these things. And it's almost like it was like a guinea pig. And it's not like they haven't done the Tuskegee experiment and all this stuff. It's just now they just do it so openly and against us. So that's what's going on. That's the paradigm that we're discussing everything under. I've tried to keep it under, their paradigm of left and right and democracy and all this other shit, but it's all bullshit. So we're just going to talk how we see it, and so these are the people that are social engineers. They perform psyops on us all the time. I feel, once you get into that level of it, you really, really start to try to tune out. Like I haven't watched TV in a really long time. I don't, like even commercials kind of bug me. It's like they kind of stick in my head almost, because I know that they're part of like a well-studied programming a system that they're unveiling on us. So it feels shitty, to say the least. But anyways, so, oh yeah, I'm supposed to stop cursing as much because I may have some parents and stuff watching. So I'm really going to try to be focused on that. But it is what it is. Sometimes I curse. Anyway, so it's important to, that 60 minutes clip, it's important to know that we've done this before, that we've been here before, and before we used to have a media that actually performed journalism. And that's what's missing right now in our lives, is that before they kind of had just an honest way of, hey, this is this side and this is this side of the argument, you choose, but now we've gotten into these echo chambers. And we see that this is by design. And I'm going to show y'all a little clip later where we're going to see that they actually even called it echo chambers, where they predicted in 2017 that this was going to, and that was the tabletop operation. It was called echo chambers in 2017 in October. And they were saying, okay, now we have a society that's digitally in these echo chambers, and there's a pandemic. And they war gamed that out. And wait till you see the details of that. It's incredible, because they are literally just socially engineering us. And before, it felt like it was just because you're myopic, you grow up in America, you think everything's us, but now you see it all around the world. You see the globalism nature of it and how they've been able to shift they're shifting paradigms right now. So it's, like I said, it's exciting. It's better than being in a 9-to-5. You understand that it's all bullshit. Allows you to really try to seek the truth, before they do their final solutions. So, and they are an insidious anti-human. They have an insidious anti-human agenda. It's almost like they're disgusted by humanity and by the humanity of others. So what they try to do is they try to simplify us, and they get us into these divide and conquer situations, and that's the establishment thrives off of that, that both sides like simplifying each other and debasing each other and dehumanizing each other. So that's what I aim to stop. It's like we have to find a way to not fall a victim to that particular psyop, which then allows everything else to kind of unfold. So in real time, this is like I said, this is a unique time. In real time, we're seeing these social engineers, work. That this is like when they decided to take away us growing livestock and us growing our own foods and gave us all these conveniences. That was a choice that they made to see how it would work. They're just tinkering, and they disguise it under being benevolent, but we'll show you later with another group called CREO that's just not how these billionaires operate. Like this is a small group, and they're increased. They've already doubled their wealth in America in the last 9 months, while everybody else is going into poverty. If that doesn't tell you that this is a class war, I don't know what will get you there. But that's but besides learning how to speak to each other, that is what we are describing to each other, is that this is no. This isn't this little bullshit left and right. This isn't this other little bullshit, BLM versus cops and all that. This isn't any of these things. This is rich, uber rich versus the rest of us, the 10%. And if you recall from like two shows ago, we did the, I showed you where our vote doesn't have any impact on their decisions and their laws. But for the top 10%, it does. So that's where we're at. But now extrapolate that worldwide, and everybody's top 10% or everybody's 1% matches up with these banking families and these elitists. And that's who's been orchestrating all of this and trying to get us to subjugate ourselves and our future selves for the rest of what we can see. Because once they get us into this real matrix, this digital monitoring, it's going to be really impossible to go against the state, and a lot of subjugation feelings will come over, and it'll be too late. Once it's unveiled, it'll be too late. Right now is that time. This is the window that still has me hopeful, because they're exposed. They're exposed. If you could sit anybody down in a room and show them anybody will see that this is all bullshit and that they are specifically lying to us as a people. So they are as exposed as it's ever been in the 20 years that I've been paying attention. This is it, man. This is a good time. We just got to share this information while we still can. Man, I got it. Man, this clip about this echo chamber tabletop exercise that they did in 2017. It's so close to what we're living in that it's outrageous. I can't wait to get into that one. But anyways, they're gonna turn this COVID-19 into climate change, into the Great Reset, and it's always you are going to be the enemy. With this virus, I'm the enemy to my friends and family. I'm the reason. Not all the pesticides that were put into the air, not all the pesticides that were put into the water, into our foods, and all that stuff. Not that stuff that was objectively killing us, causing cancers, causing deformities. We didn't have to do a reset for that shit against these corporations. But when we are the individual enemy, then that's what they're trying to do to all of us, to get us to be able to subjugate ourselves down to this level. So they have the climate change. It's the same thing. They want us to erase our carbon footprint, that we are an oxygen intake, carbon dioxide outtake. Like, this is just the way the shit works. They're trying to do emissions trading regulations on that and schemes and all that shit. All of this is just designed to make us the enemy of the earth, which is bullshit. They, as corporations, are the enemies of the earth. But we won't even get into that today. We're talking about social engineering today. And this, this whole new, this third, I don't know if it's the second wave or the third wave. I always lose count, but this whole new lockdown, they're like, we just went into lockdown again. And this is our time to resist. We must resist. And we're going into lockdowns, but we're going into lockdowns based on lies, like absolute lies. We have one main lie, is that any of this shit is asymptomatic. We have Fauci saying on air that this is not asymptomatic, does not drive this pandemic. So therefore, we don't need to all be treated as criminals. If you have symptoms, stay your ass home. And that's as easy as it gets. That's all you have to do. If you're sick, stay home. That's it. That's the only change to any of this. But we know that they're lying about these case demics. They've combined all the normal pneumonia, influenza, COVID deaths, and rose them. The whole thing is bullshit. When you get into this other exercise called echo chamber, you'll just see that they predicted that they would inflate the numbers, and then the last number would be about 0.6, which is less than 1%. They used to tell us it was like 4 or 5%, which was like millions of people. But anyway, so they're censoring and they're confusing us with all this information. Everybody's, you'll always hear both sides of everything as its truth, whether it's CNN or Fox telling it. But they are manipulating the data. And I have this case demic situation that's going on in the UK, and you'll be able to see it really, really easily. But what we must not forget is that authority comes from us. So the fact that they're able to execute all this, that means that we've given them this authority as people. So we need to just take that shit back. Like radical steps that don't include violence are necessary, which is stop working, which is to convince a bunch of people together to stop working together. Just like if it's Amazon, convince your mom and dad to not buy from Amazon anymore. Like whatever it takes, we can't continue to give them our money. We get $1,200 and then we've spent it up on Walmart and Amazon. This is all a game. This is all bullshit. And the only way that we get that back is by getting our authority back. So that's one thing I did want to mention. And Denmark was just out in the streets and they just won. They were trying to say, hey, they're going to be able to section off people and say they got to do mandatory vaccines. And everybody went into the streets every night, banging on pots and pans for 9 days straight. And they had to stop. They had to pull back. And that's the type. And the thing is, like, we're so divided here as a country that it's hard to get into that mindset. But that's where we're at. We got to get out with our neighbors and do something together on both sides of this aisle, whether it's Democrat or Republican. So, and we always got to remember that truth is on our side. So just that's your quest. That's what you're seeking. It's an earnest thing. It's not like you're trying to manipulate anybody into anything for anything other than the truth. So anyways, on the show, we'll be discussing social engineering. We're going to be using some current and historical events to demonstrate just how they do it. What does it look like? And if you enjoy, the content that we've been doing here, definitely share, like, subscribe, talk about it with your friends, use the information to convince other people, but definitely don't, just be copiously nice with it and share as much as you can. But especially if you understand all these bigger concepts, because that's what we have to figure out how to lay down to people, and prioritize, because you can't just hit them with the lizard people person first. You can't hit them with the flat earth shit if you believe in that shit. You got to go with, your local politician is corrupted by this money here. You can tell, this is an international code here called Agenda 2030. This is what they're doing. None of these have anything to do with what we want to do here. You have to see these bigger pictures so you can explain it easily. I mean, we got to get there. So, but this is the fun part of the show. Before we continue, got to talk about my boys. Flickwick. Please go to shop.flickwick.com, enter LSPB or ACTJ, and you'll get 20% off everything on the website, and you will get free shipping. And they got those mechanical blunts that I use and a Flickwick for like $20-25. Make a good Christmas gift. Anyways, yeah, let's show some love over there. They've been with us since day one. And yeah, so, all right, with that said, so with the world going back into lockdown, no rhyme or reason, and this is the time to resist. And you want to say, well, how does that look? So let's show you these guys here.
Well, I think we got to go, John.
You have to leave. You guys have to leave.
You guys need to leave.
You have to leave.
Right now, you're trespassing without a warrant.
Mass civil disobedience starts now.
You're trespassing.
You're not
trespassing.
You're trespassing.
Doesn't matter. We have a right to be here.
Then get a warrant, dude. Go get a warrant. Bring a warrant. Go get a warrant. Yes, you do.
Come back with a warrant or leave.
You don't write the law.
So you can walk on any property with no warrant? Go get a warrant. You guys are breaking the law right now. You're breaking the law. Go outside. No, go on your phone outside. Go on your phone outside.
Really like it.
Where did you hear the report?
Okay,
people like it. Break the law, dude.
Who reported it?
Leave.
Who reported it? Who reported it?
You know what? I don't know.
Yeah,
Because
it's anonymous, right? It's
Yes,
anonymous.
It is, but
It
it's
can't
a
be
legitimate
anonymous.
complaint.
You need to
It
know
can
your
be,
accuser. You need to
that's
know. It
not-
cannot
Okay,
be
wait,
anonymous.
you gotta go get a warrant.
It
It's not how
cannot be
health
anonymous.
department.
It cannot be
You
anonymous.
gotta go get a warrant.
You don't get the
You gotta go
right
get a
to
warrant.
policies. You
It's
don't get to
code
violate the
enforcement.
Constitution. It
This
does
isn't
not
the
matter.
same
You
as
don't
that.
circumvent or subvert the Constitution.
Someone call the news.
That's the way it
News here,
works.
too. Call the news. Okay, Miss, you need to leave.
Get out! 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 Get out!
No, now they gotta get off the property. We gotta get them off the
property. Dude, just because the Black Lives Matter
You guys
protest,
are welcome.
turn your head.
You're not welcome here.
This is a Black Lives
Yeah, go.
Matter
You guys
protest.
gotta
Turn your
go.
head.
On and it goes on and on like that, and that's what we got to do. Those people, $52 billion retailers owe in back rent alone. This is outrageous. They cannot stop us from working as they're still working. Guys, I mean, this is no joke now, you know, like it started off fun and games. It's the time to resist consciously, you know, and you saw those good people do it. So, and you know, we talked about Denmark, you know, the Mockingbird media is crucial in all of this. It's crucial to the Great Reset. It's the one that's allowing all of this to kind of manifest the way it is. And you know, we know what these people you know are like. You know, the media lies to you all the time. Here, I'm gonna play this guy here. And we're going to talk through this one. So this is CNN Politics talking about Dominion. And this is how all the fact checks always work. They're always like, fact first. And it's like, none of this is true. Dominion has no corporate ties with Venezuela, the Clinton Foundation, or Soros. And that's it. That's all people read. Then you go into it, and let's see, Venezuela. Let's see. It says Smartmatic was founded in Florida by two Venezuelans. Then the other, hold on, let me actually go back, because I'm going to show you this one too. Yeah, so then there's two Venezuelans that did provide election technology to the Venezuelan government. So two Venezuelans created this company, and they did sell their election equipment, yet they have the nerve to say that none of this shit is connected to Dominion, which Dominion bought their is licensing their shit. Then it says there's no tie to the Clinton Foundation. But then down here it says, okay, yeah, well, it was used in emerging democracies as part of a program run by the Clinton Foundation. So they're the ones making the purchase of these as part of their logistics of all of it. They're making purchases of these machines in 2014. So what the fuck are they talking about? And then it says there's no tie to Soros, which Smartmatic, I showed y'all last time about that Lord Moloch, whatever the fuck his weird name was. But he's basically Soros's right-hand man. And here they are admitting that. They're like, and while he was the chairman of the board of Smartmatic's parent company, and is also on the board of the foundation run by Soros. So there's a direct connection, even though it says there's no corporate ties. It's like they're doing it all out in the open. This is driving me crazy. So we have truth on our side. We know how to point out their lies. And then if I go into it, we go into this one. This is one that a lot of people has been talking about, and then all of a sudden you see a lot of this shit trending on Twitter and stuff like that. And so this is the New York Times, and this is their website, and they have on there. Let me see if I can go back just a touch. Here it is. The baseless Great Reset conspiracy theory rises again. This is the type of a psyop that we're under. This is the type of attack that we're under. This is our Mockingbird media working nonstop to confuse the fuck out of everybody. Everybody starts hearing about it. They see that it's trending. All of a sudden, they write this stupid ass article. I'm not even going to read it too much, but it's just, if you want to go look at it, it's a New York Times, and it's like the conspiracy about COVID-19 is trending again, even though the guy literally wrote a fucking book who invites nothing but billionaires over. The fuck are these people even talking about anymore? I don't know, but to me, I'm offended by all of this shit. It's all of this stuff. Jesus Christ. I do curse a lot, don't I? I think that it's time to start calling this shit out, because this is an open conspiracy. There's no doubt about it. This is as open of a conspiracy as it gets. And they told you they were going to do an open conspiracy. If you go look up a book called The Open Conspiracy by H.G. Wells, they talk about it. So I just think it's time for us to really, stand up for humanity. Really stand up for it all. Like, stand up for yourself. It's So, anyways, they're creating a paradigm which they'll use to get the world that they want, and where we're all going to be equally poor, we're going to all be debased, we're all going to be dehumanized. I don't know why I can't say that word. But yeah, so we just got to we got to really understand what's going on big picture. And you saw that the CNN, the fact checking, that's how all this fact checking always goes. I've never heard of not presenting both sides of the argument and then just letting the people choose. Like, this whole authoritarian, like, this is the right shit and this is the wrong shit. That's as bad as it gets. That's the biggest tell that they're doing some nefarious ass shit. So again, speechless on what our actions need to be, but I'm here to just give y'all the ammo to fucking take it all back. So let's keep it going. So we had the New York Times then calling out the Great Reset as a conspiracy, but we know it's not. Does this look like a conspiracy? I mean, like, let's look at this clip.
We have an incredible opportunity to create entirely new sustainable industries, investing in nature as the true engine of our economy.
The current global crisis has disrupted every aspect of our lives, but it has also presented us with an extraordinary opportunity, a chance to reset and accelerate efforts to improve the state of our world.
Changing our current trajectory will require bold and imaginative action, together with determination and decisive leadership. In order to secure our future and to prosper, we need to evolve our economic model, putting people and planet at the heart of global value creation. If there is one critical lesson we have to learn from this crisis, we need to put nature at the heart of how we operate. We are on the verge of catalytic breakthroughs that will alter our view of what is possible and profitable within the framework of a sustainable future.
And profitable.
We need nothing short of a paradigm shift, one that inspires action at revolutionary levels and pace. We simply cannot waste any more time. The only limit is our willingness to act. And the time to act is now.
That's basically a fucking threat. Like he's announcing that's Prince Phillips or whichever one that's the guy that's supposed to be the king, but whatever. Because it's Queen Elizabeth. But yeah, that guy's not even supposed to be doing political shit, and he's out here doing a great reset at this time. They are letting you know. Let's keep on.
Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight severe virus, but to shape the system.
We have a unique but rapidly shrinking window of opportunity to learn lessons and reset ourselves on a more sustainable path. It is an opportunity we have never had before and may never have again. So we must use all the levers we have at our disposal, knowing that each and every one of us has a vital role to play.
The Great Reset is a welcome recognition that this human tragedy must be a wake-up call. It is imperative that we reimagine, rebuild, redesign, reinvigorate, and rebalance our world. Rebalancing investment, harnessing science and technology, and advancing the transition to net zero emissions, all elements of the Great Reset, are fundamental to building the future we need.
They're talking about things like they don't want us to own property anymore. We're not going to own anything. It will be provided for us. Well, who does own the property? Who's renting it out to us? Some sort of shadowy elite. This is a takeover by the technocrats. And I urge anyone who thinks that this is a kind of conspiracy theory to do a bit of background reading. The Great Reset, the World Economic Forum, combined with UN Agenda 2030, as it's now called, is a complete transformation of our societies around the world on lines I would call communist or fascist.
Stocking, the book written by World Economic Forum boss Klaus Schwab himself, setting out precisely how the most powerful forces in the world are lining up to use the COVID-19 crisis as a pretext for introducing a new climate change-focused one world economy that will strip away property rights and basic democratic rights. They are not hiding this stuff, Jackie. They are shouting it from the rooftops. Even more reason why your ignorance is inexcusable. Indeed, here's Prince Charles only a couple of days ago wearing a poppy and disgracefully using the symbolism of Remembrance Day to push this same eco-fascist, globalist, totalitarian agenda.
With the urgency required, I hope, ladies and gentlemen, you will join me to drive a new Marshall-like plan for nature, people, and planet, led by the private sector to align our collective efforts and resources for the highest possible impact. We need a shift in our economic model that places nature and the world's transition to net zero at the heart of how we operate, prioritizing the pursuit of sustainable, inclusive growth in the decades to come. There is hope that we can transform the situation, but I'm afraid we are literally at the last hour, and there is real urgency for action.
And does that look like a conspiracy theory, or does that look like social engineering? Does that look like they are going to create, like they already know, and they're just letting you know that the time is now? They've told us for centuries now. You know, they're always doing these live exercises, you know, and then basically predicting the future, but they never save us from anything. The simulations never prevent any of the shit. They just predict it and then almost follow it to a T. Let's see if we want to show this. What is this one? All right, yeah, this is just to hammer the point home. I don't know if y'all have missed this clip, but this is now getting on broad TV. This does not look like a conspiracy.
Vagano wrote, would ever have thought that in all of our cities, citizens would be arrested simply for wanting to walk down the street, to breathe, to want to keep their businesses open, to want to go to church on Sunday. Yet now it is happening all over the world. The fundamental rights of citizens and believers are being denied in the name of a health emergency that is revealing itself more and more fully as instrumental to the establishment of an inhuman, faceless tyranny, end quote. Now, you may not have heard those words before, and there's a reason for that. The usual foot soldiers for conformity in our news media did their best to suppress and discredit Vagano's letter to the president. Yahoo News tried to tie the elderly clergyman somehow to QAnon, which to them made sense. He alleged that a global health emergency was being used by the people in power for ends that had nothing to do with the virus itself. And of course, that's crazy talk. It's a conspiracy theory, Russian disinformation, probably racist. Better pull it off the internet right away. Censor those ideas before they infect the whole country. That's the media position on that. The only problem is that what Vagano wrote is actually true. It's not a conspiracy theory. It is factually accurate. Watch this video from September. You may not have seen it. It wasn't played much in this country. This is the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, speaking to the United Nations.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset. This is our chance to accelerate our pre-pandemic efforts to reimagine economic systems that actually address global challenges like extreme poverty, inequality, and climate change.
Oh, this is our chance, says Justin Trudeau. Not our chance to save you from a virus with a 99% survival rate. You'll almost certainly be fine, and they're fully aware of that. This is our chance to impose totally unprecedented social controls on the population in order to bypass democracy and change everything to conform with their weird academic theories that have never been tested in the real world and, by the way, don't actually make sense. This is their chance. Quote, this pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset, end quote. Keep in mind, that's not from QAnon. That is a head of state talking.
They've been telling us for a while. They've been telling us for centuries. And and if we want to dig deeper, you just go to the live exercises. Because I remember PNAC. And PNAC is the shit that got me thinking, what the fuck? Because they pretty much predicted 9/11. And all of those motherfuckers that signed this little document were in office, in high places, scattered about. So then you go to 2010 and you have something called Lockstep, Operation Lockstep, written by the Rockefeller Institute. And it details how to shut down Western countries that are in revolt. And if you want to know how they're doing it, just go look at that document. Very well-sourced document. So these guys are social engineers. And you go to the live exercises, then you go to this one in 2017 called Echochamber, and this is the one we're going to get into details into. But then you go into something called Claudex in 2018, another tabletop exercise, dealing with pandemics and crazy situations. Then you have Crimson Contagion. Then you have, obviously, everybody knows Event 201. And events like these, and you even have events like the Tuskegee experiment and shit like that. And when they sprayed St. Louis and when they sprayed Agent Orange all over Vietnam, they're constantly just tinkering with this shit. And like I told you before, they're creating a paradigm for us, and this one's not good. This one's not, this last one, we've been able to survive in it, but this next one, it's not good. It's that shit. It's a brave new world. So.
Pro shops
do we want this world?
Family traditions mean everything, especially this year.
They have the media on their side.
Invite your family to join us for free photos with Santa at our reimagined Santa's Wonderland. Enjoy
He's got
a
a shield on.
contactless visit thanks to our Magic Santa Shield, along with extra enhancements to keep everyone safe this holiday season. Reserve a free time
For the
online
kids. This
and
is
check
all
in on
about
your
the
smart
kids.
device. Our elves will be wearing face coverings and cleaning all surfaces between each visit with physical distancing that provides plenty of room. Reservations are limited, so make yours today.
That's not the world I want to live in. Where's that statement? Give me liberty or give me death. Like, that's where we're at. I know everybody was talking about it on the show before, but that's literally where we are. So yeah, let's get into this. But it's let me see what I got here. And yeah, so they're using they're using technology, media, all these agendas to socially engineer the direction of our future and what our future holds for us. And it's not good. Like, we're going to be basically all poor and all living in a shitty accepted situation. And we're not going to have the ability to talk to each other and galvanize and combat this thing. It's going to be a technocracy. It's not going to be based on and have all these beautiful tenets of life and love floating around. People aren't even going to have a relationship with plants at all. So it's no sacred shit can even happen. So this is they have it all under control. They're very vulnerable right now. And so it's always it's always their rules, but it's always just for us. I showed y'all that with Biden. And I think that's the one that it's going to show. Yeah. And so, it's the rules are always made for us, not for them, and I have a little clip of Biden, but I'm going to just bypass that one. But we know it's all a lie. And I'm going to show you this. This should kill the whole conversation about any lockdown, about anything at all that deals with masks or anything.
But the one thing historically people need to realize, that even if there is some asymptomatic transmission, in all the history of respiratory-borne viruses of any type, asymptomatic transmission has never been the driver of outbreaks. The driver of outbreaks is always a symptomatic person. Even if there's a rare asymptomatic person that might transmit, an epidemic is not driven by asymptomatic carriers.
And that's the guy that also told you that you shouldn't wear, masks because you might get some schmutz and shit inside of it, and it causes bacterial infections. And he told you the truth, and he told you the truth again, and he told you the truth about the PCR test. They had this guy out here telling you the fucking truth. Yet nobody understands nobody understands it. The media flips it all upside down, and nobody seems to understand what that man just said. He basically said that unless you have symptoms, you're not gonna push this thing along. So the rest of us should live our lives unless you have symptoms. That's the only clip you need. That's 45 seconds. Just take that around. Show everybody. Show him saying those three things about no masks. Show him saying about the PCR test being irrelevant if they're past 35 cycles. Show them this clip right here. That's it. There's no fucking reason for anything. If it's not asymptomatic, that's what we're all scared about. That and the 4% death rate that they said that we were going to encounter. And right now, all they can say is maybe 0.23. If you're over, and a little higher if you're over 70. Come on, man. I think that should allow us to just cancel the entire process of locking down, the entire process of masks, the entire idea that the asymptomatic people is what's driving this pandemic should allow us to just go back to normal life. It doesn't get any simpler than that. So now if we go to our local representatives and demand them to make sense of what he just said, what the WHO says about not locking down, when you have real officials of this thing that they say that they listen to, these scientists, saying that lockdowns cause poverty. Now we have him saying that this is not an asymptomatic thing. And we have him also saying at one point that masks, aren't good for you. How bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? Bad enough to maybe have an argument once? So, anyways. So that's the lockdown. And this is what they think of us.
They have an agreement at 3%. Today you said, well, I might have to impose an orange zone and I might have to close the schools, which an orange zone does. So what's going on? Does the city still have the ability to close its schools? Are you now taking control and saying that you have the power to make this decision? And for the millions of parents who want to know, are the schools going to open tomorrow in New York City?
All right. First of all, let's try not to be obnoxious and offensive in your tone, because you're 100% wrong. We announced the orange zone law over a month ago. I don't know if you were here or if you were paying attention, but that has been in effect for over a month. It always said, if by the state's numbers you hit 3%, the schools close. What's going on here is nothing that the law hasn't said for over a month. We then had the test out procedures. If you were paying attention, you would have known we closed the schools in New York City 2 weeks ago. Remember when we did an orange zone and a red zone in Brooklyn and Queens? And we closed the schools?
How dare he?
Don't you remember that? Okay, so what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You're now going to override. We did it already. That's the law, an orange zone and a red zone. Follow the facts.
I'm still confused.
Well, then you're confused.
I'm confused, and
then I'll tell you what you mean.
Parents are still confused as well. The schools in New
they're
York
not
City
confused.
tomorrow.
You're confused.
No, I think
Read
parents
the
are
law.
very confused as well.
Read the law, and you won't be confused.
But Governor,
Go ahead.
follow Jim's question. Are the schools going to be open tomorrow?
The schools are open by state law.
But will they be open tomorrow? That's the question. I think Jimmy's correct in asking that question. I don't think it's obnoxious at all.
Well, I don't really care what you think.
And that's how they really think. Those are our politicians, our representative, and that's talking to the media. They already have button page saying, hey, I don't give a fuck what you think. Oh, God damn it. I'm supposed to not be cursing. Damn it. This shit just gets me hyped. So we got something that they've deemed an open conspiracy, and that's what we're living under, is an open conspiracy. And yeah, these guys are they're unapologetic globalists. Like it's just. This is a fun one. If I find it a little too long. Also, if you're on Twitter, it's going to shut down right at 9. So just find us over at YouTube. You just look up Lou Starsky on YouTube, search, and it should pop up. And just go watch us live there and join the conversation there. But anyways, let's check these guys out because they keep telling us. I'm going to reiterate that shit.
We have to prepare for a more angry world, and how to prepare? It means to take the necessary action. What we want to do in Davos this year in this respect is to push the reset button.
History would look at this crisis as the great opportunity for reset.
The next time someone tells us that tackling climate change is either too costly or too difficult, I think we need to remind them and remind ourselves of what just is happening right now.
Treat the climate crisis like you treat any other crisis.
It is imperative that we reimagine, rebuild, redesign, reinvigorate, and rebalance our world.
We not only have to demand change, but also create change.
And then we need to couple that with new initiatives to equip more people with the digital skills they'll need, not just to have a tech job, but a job that is increasingly tech-enabled in almost every part of the economy.
At the start of the pandemic, working from home might have felt like a welcome change. Now, with longer days and less interaction, some employees are starting to feel burnt out.
Some employers are turning to software to monitor what their employees are doing all day long.
You need private sector capital, private sector ingenuity, private sector technology, and private sector capabilities to come to the party.
This morning, a mind-boggling report on layoffs. More than 6.6 million Americans filing new claims for unemployment insurance last week, the largest number in a single week ever.
We will now start a quite high number of task forces to look at all the different issues, and we will present all those ideas to the people assembled in Davos.
And just like that, everything in the world is made right and pure again. The Great Reset. What could be simpler?
We need to promote and embed a financial architecture that is fit for the challenges of tomorrow and that helps accelerate the transition towards a more digital and more green euro area economy. It is a challenge. It would be easy to revert back to our turf, behind our borders, and to assume that life will continue as it was. We cannot let a good crisis go to waste. We have to use it to be stronger the day after.
But after all we've been through, it isn't enough just to go back to normal. We've lost too much. We've mourned too many. We've been through too much frustration and hardship just to settle for the status quo ante, to think that life can go on as it was before the plague. And it will not, because history teaches us that events of this magnitude, wars, famines, plagues, events that affect the vast bulk of humanity, as this virus has, they don't just come and go. They are more often than not the trigger for an acceleration of social and economic change.
They are more often than not the trigger for an acceleration of social and economic change.
Because we human beings will simply not content ourselves with a repair job. We see these moments as the time to learn and to improve on the world that went before. And that's why this government will build back better, build back better, build back better.
Over the last few weeks, I've laid out my Build Back Better plan.
Building back better means getting support to the most vulnerable while maintaining our momentum on reaching the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the SDGs.
Guys, they're doing their PR moves. These are all they're putting it out there. Like all we know, every one of these heads of states are compromised because we know what a real heads of state or real influencers happen to them. They get killed. Every one of them, from Jimi Hendrix to Kurt Cobain, if you want to get into the music part, all the way up to, Malcolm X, MLK, John F. Kennedy, John F. Kennedy Jr. It's like, it's not outside of scope. You should be able to understand this so that you can explain it to other people too. And we have, this is H.G. Wells. This is one of their voices in books that he's written. And he wrote a book, and it was called The Open Conspiracy. H.G. Wells on World Revolution. Yeah, I should say, and also Bobby Kennedy too. And I think they fucked up his son's voice, which is kind of fucked up. But yeah, that's how these guys work, and it's all these trances and spells, and everything's a spell, like and everything's a lie, and we've had the CIA guys say out here, that we want to, that our mission's not going to be complete until everything Americans think is a lie, and that's exactly what they're doing. Like we don't know who to trust anymore. They've broken every single institution, and people are freaking out because not a lot of people have been keeping up with this shit, or just always knew something was fucked up. So you're not buying the bullshit. But I think you got to do yourself a service by starting to be a little more vocal. And I know a lot of us are. I know I'm a shy person, and I'm trying to let the emotion motivate me to speak, but then to have a conscious mind to tone it down and to try to really get them to see my point of view. That's what we're doing. So, and so it's an open conspiracy. And here's another huge example we're about to get into. This is a fun one that hopefully y'all will like. And at the very end, I have a little a special treat. It's a big long list of the guys that I use, that I use research for, and they're all kind of listed there at the end. So so if you want to screenshot that or whatever, you'll just be able to see a lot of the books and a lot of the podcasts and current things, and alternative news sources that I use. To understand all of this stuff. These guys are seeking the truth. They just present both sides, and y'all should get down to the source too. So when we're talking, we're just talking. But anyways, yeah. So there's this the CREO Syndicate, and I'm going to go ahead and let these guys intro them so you know what I'm talking about. And this is pretty fascinating to me. So let's see. It's bam.
Environmentalist revealed, this from our friends at activistpost.com, ultra wealthy investors looking to direct vast sums of money into green investments to atone for their climate sins have been joining in a secretive nonprofit dedicated to speeding up the flow of capital into investments that can slow global warming. This all according to Bloomberg. The club, CREO Syndicate, works with around 200 families who pay a very reasonable flat fee to join and must commit to making their first investment in climate and sustainability within 6 months, according to founder and director Regine Clement. According to the report, quote, part of building trust with wealthy families is keeping their secrets. In addition to Grantham and Simons, the group's ranks include other well-known billionaires whose names CREO won't disclose. A mantra is no tourists allowed. This is not philanthropy. This is investment. We grow entirely through introductions. We never seek out a family, end quote, said Clement. CREO currently has over $800 billion under management, acting essentially as a mini investment bank. The nonprofit vets approximately 300 deals a year, connecting member investors with potential partners while researching technologies for future investments. Those watching the show, interested in joining CREO, you got to have assets of at least $100 million and pass a board approval process. The investments aren't mainstream. However, according to Spring Lane Capital Managing Director Christian Zabal, co-chair of CREO's board, it's fine because these families are comfortable being pioneers. What CREO is doing today is essentially a preview of what institutional capital will do very shortly. CREO members make a wide variety of bets that might make a difference and make money. Yeah, they might make a difference, but you can bet your butt they're going to make money. CREO was formed in 2016 after two climate-focused investor networks merged, and some of CREO's investments have paid off big. Really awesome things like Beyond Meat and Tesla. The secret club for billionaires who care about climate change. We will give you the archive.is link so we don't drive any traffic to, of course, the powers that shouldn't be. CREO Syndicate. Clean, renewable, and environmental opportunities.
Jesus. Yeah, so that's that's them right there in the open. That's basically legalized tyranny. That's they're creating it right there, and it's situations like that is what gets the billionaires together, and that's kind of where the Jeffrey Epsteins may have to play a part, and these are the people where they have to get this money and they direct it into these certain situations because they're socially engineering us, so they have control of everybody, and little things like that. It may not seem like that. It may not seem it may seem harmless, but when you get money talking like that, you can really change, make real changes, and they know that. So they're not just investing in nothing. It's almost like insider trading when it comes to what they know the trends are going to be. It's legalized tyranny. I don't know how else to explain it. So, and then they crushed dissent. You got to remember that. Like, they're also at the same time, anything like with the Jeffrey Epstein case, they either gave him a free pass at the beginning, and then when everybody finds out, they just kill the dude, and all of a sudden that's it. Everybody's good. All his co-conspirators are off the hook. That's what they do. And whether it's that, I don't know if y'all remember Occupy Wall Street, but that shit was like, that was what got me through a couple of years. It was like, holy shit, we're gonna, they did this all at the same time. The coordination, this is the internet's capabilities. This is us as a group saying no more to exactly the problem, which was the banks. And this is before, this is before they did the bank bailout and everything. So, there was still there was a lot of charge going on, but here's this guy talking about it. Or I think this is after the bank bailout, actually. But here's this guy talking about it. This is the guy that created it, and it's just it's insane. Like here's him talking about it. That they were crushing dissent even back in Obama's day.
When Occupy was crushed by Obama and also governments around the world, it left me wondering, like, how could it possibly have failed? Here I am, an activist at the age of 13, from 13 to 28. I had believed that if you could create something like Occupy Wall Street, you would get the change that you wanted. That was the whole storyline of activism that I had been raised under. And so when Occupy was crushed and we didn't get what we wanted, I spent the next 5 or 6 years kind of thinking about theories of change and active and why it didn't work. And I wrote a book called The End of Protest. So there's a lot that we can dive into, but I think that the main kind of conclusion, and I liked what you were saying about this the century ending, because I think the bookend of my thought was really that the dominant storyline of contemporary activism is broken. That this idea that we're going to create mass movements that put demands on our leaders, and that these leaders are going to be forced to listen to us because of the myth of representative democracy is fundamentally broken. And this is what the new century is about. But we now know that activists have a tremendous role to play, because activists are the one force that seem to have this mystical, almost magical capacity to mobilize millions of people with so few resources. You would be amazed how inexpensive it was to create Occupy Wall Street. So I think we're in this moment now where elites need activists, because activists are the only social force that seem to know how to do this mobilization. And activists are now needing elites, because elites hold the key to not squashing and destroying these social protests.
Well, Michael, sorry, what you just said is fascinating, but also very shocking. When you say that the dominant storyline of activism, contemporary activism, is broken, that public pressure on elected representatives is ineffective. What's the point of marching? What's the point of writing in? What's the point of joining a movement?
Yeah, exactly. What is the point? I mean, it's very difficult, because You know, and I think if you want to trace what that moment is that broke protests, it was in 2003 when George Bush and Tony Blair went to war despite an unprecedented global synchronized protest. There had never been a protest in human history. If you guys remember February 15, 2003, everywhere on earth protested at the same time.
And he goes on to say they protested at the same time. And and if you know, and this was at the World Economic Forum. This guy makes me feel like, you know, just watching that again, makes me feel like he was probably one of the reasons that caused it to crash eventually. You know, like gatekeepers they are, and they, you know, they corral and do opposition control, controlled opposition or whatever. And it's just to create these narratives and these rules against us, you know, protesting the way we used to be able to, and you know, like we're losing a lot of our abilities because they're legalizing this tyranny right over us, you know, right around us. And so while the facade is still there of us supposedly being free, this is our only and last time. You know, this is our last chance, and they'll take however long they need to create these narratives and to create these stories. Because I tell people about, you know, some of our earlier shows was about Rockefeller and how they got into how, you know, it was in America, and then they went to Germany, and then from, you know, first of all they went to Russia, and then they went to Germany, and then they went to China, and it's all the same bankers, and they're just taking us out like dominoes, you know. And it was just like, all right, well, we got America in a stronghold with the 1913 Federal Act. Then right after that, you know, at the same time, almost simultaneously, they were fucking with the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. Then after that, they went straight into Germany, and that kind of helped create Israel, which created some, you know, strife for later on for them to be like, oh, look at this, weapons, we need weapons, you know. And then they went into China at the same time while everybody's looking at all of this other crazy shit going on. They're in China, and you know, and we got proof of that. And now they want us to believe that there's going to be this new century Cold War between these two countries that we created. Our banks created everything about them. Everything about the manufacturing is our old manufacturing over theirs. These corporations went from here to there because they don't have any fucking loyalty. They're just globalists. They're playing with us. And they can do that. And that's his bottom line. It's like, okay, y'all don't want to do slavery here, so we'll go do slavery over there. And y'all are, you know what? We're going to tell you about it, and y'all are going to have to still buy those products and just swallow that pill every day you want those Nikes. Every day you want that Apple. Every day you start typing away on this superior machine, you know that people are jumping off of fucking buildings. But we still do it. And that shit hurts sometimes, right? No doubt about that. So anyways, we're going to keep it going. So this is a long-term bank, war, and this is all of them infiltrating and subverting. We got China, USA, it's all bankers. And now they have this shit called the China Challenge that's going to be leaked. And let's check that out.
But our second segment here, really interesting one from antiwar.com. And again, everything we say for 11 plus years is always cited in your show notes. State Department to release Cold War style papers on China's rise. The State Department's Office of Policy Planning, you down with OPP, expected to release a document that outlines Washington's strategy to face a rising China. The papers are inspired by a 1947 essay in Foreign Affairs, the Council on Foreign Relations magazine, that you'll see in airports, because that's where smart people are, getting their news on the go. 1947 essay in Foreign Affairs by George Kennan that introduced the containment policy the U.S. followed to confront the Soviet Union. Axios, again with the scoop, obtained a copy of the document titled The Elements of the China Challenge. The paper is over 70 pages long, identifies Most Favored Nation as a threat to the world due to its ideology its government believes in, channeling Cold War rhetoric. So the document, because everybody likes lists, outlines 10 tasks the U.S. must do to face China. Number 1, promoting constitutional government and civil society at home. try and, try and not laugh at the utter hilarious bald-faced hypocrisy of your serial killers in charge. So we can try and make it through this list. Promoting constitutional government and civil society at home, maintaining the world's strongest military, fortifying the rules-based international order, reevaluating its alliance system, strengthening its alliance system, and creating new international organizations to promote democracy and human rights, cooperating with China with...
I want to go back to this because I just want to make sure that you see the terminology. And when it says fortifying the rules-based international order, that's just them saying a new world order. They try to get slick sometimes, but if you just break these words down, they always go back to meaning the same fucking thing. And it's alliance system. We know that that's all bullshit, but they're just setting up for World War III.
Democracy and human rights, cooperating with China when possible and constraining Beijing when appropriate, educating Americans about the China challenge, train a new generation of public servants who understand great power competition with China, maybe sort of like the mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, might say, people who have pledged their allegiance to the New World Order, those kind of public servants. Number 9, reforming the U.S. education system to help students understand the responsibility of citizenship in a complex information age. And number 10, championing the principles of freedom in word and deed. News of the document's release comes after reports that said the Trump administration is planning a series of hardline actions against China before January 20th to make it politically untenable for future puppet presidents to reverse. State Department to release Kennan-style paper on China. We'll include, of course, all the links on that, James. Here it is. Kissinger and Rockefeller essentially built up most favored nation, and now, oh my gosh, we can't believe they've turned into this big enemy. Am I oversimplifying things?
Well, that's the surface level reading of it, yes. But of course, again, that was the long-term game plan, was to build this up exactly for those purposes. And it wasn't just the Kissinger Rockefeller, it was also Rockefeller Brzezinski with the Trilateral Commission, and Brzezinski, of course, being in the Carter administration back when relations were normalized with China and all of that. I mean, there's so much tapestry involved there, but look at the connecting point. You got Rockefeller with Kissinger, you got Rockefeller with Brzezinski. It doesn't matter left or right. I mean, come on, this is nonsense. And again, with the Biden administration, yes, the tenor and I'm sure the rhetoric of things will change, assuming whatever happens on January 21st, 20th of 2021, I don't know, but assuming they're going to install Biden as Lord Emperor of the American Empire, the tenor and the rhetoric will change, but the underlying point will not change, as evidenced by this document that we're linking to, this 72-page, here's the blueprint for the Cold War of the 21st century.
And they have those pictures in there were crazy because it's exactly what I've been talking about with the Rockefeller institutions and all that stuff. That was Rockefeller with a Republican in Kissinger, and that was Rockefeller with Brzezinski from the Carter administration. They're the ones that normalized relationships with China. So that's Rockefeller with both. So he's the main cog in both of it. And that was Chairman Mao. That's the dude. That's the dude to shot people in the back of the fucking head. And so it's not hard to see that they have been propping up this other place, China, and doing more draconian shit to try to figure out a real way to do this. And this whole credit score that they have over there, they limited the amount of kids that they could have. Like the whole reproduction power, the whole control over reproduction of the people, all that shit. That's what's coming to us. That's what they've been perfecting over there with a billion people, and now that's what they're gonna start shortly introducing here, and that's what we got going on. So, anyways, the show's running a little long today, but there's a lot of stuff that I wanted to cover. So, because I really wanted to show social engineering in real time. And that's all I'm using all of these things. That's what we're talking about. The guys that are fucking making it happen. So anyways, that was Kissinger, Rockefeller. They built it up. All that shit's dual purpose. Like I said, it was a long-term it's a long-term game plan for them, man. And it's like, doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on. And it's, I've been in this shit for 40 years, and it doesn't, the policies don't change. They're globalist policies. They just hide it behind Democrats for 4 years or 8 years. Then they hide it behind Republicans for 4 to 8 years. And then they go back and forth. And with this whole, COVID ID and all of these things that are going to start changing the way we interact with our governments, it's going to go from a police state, that we knew that we were into like a biosecurity, technocracy. So it's going to be, way harder to really evade all this stuff, yeah, it's kind of crazy, but yeah. So let's get back to the tabletop exercises, because I found one that was interesting, and I'm gonna go ahead and play the intro for you, so you know what I'm talking about.
SPARS pandemic of 2025, echo chambers and vaccine opposition. So if you're confused about what SPARS is, that's what we're going to tell you today. The SPARS pandemic, didn't you know? It's set for 2025. So this is actually another simulation. You're aware of how ridiculous it is that they can have these simulations that basically damn near exactly line out what's going to happen, and over and over and over it happens.
They came up with 4 different scenarios, they say, but they don't tell you what the other ones are. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but they chose to focus on what they called echo chamber, which is a world that leads to more internet access, more technological advances, but through that, a further insulating of different communities where people start isolating themselves and just creating echo chambers, kind of like we're seeing today, and just kind of putting themselves into little boxes where the only information they have to get is the information that they agree with, and just kind of reinforcing that view. And so that world is taking place at the same time as what they end up calling the SPARS pandemic takes place. Like, it's an outbreak of another coronavirus that sweeps around the world and basically wreaks havoc around the world, or at least that's the perception, from 2025 to 2028. And there's one of the ones I just want to say off the bat, I think it's the fact that this study or this simulation, it sort of anticipated this idea that the authorities would make a big deal about something and that people would respond and be obedient, but then after a while, people would start to question it, and that they're, of course, an anti-vaccine movement, and that ultimately the numbers would be way off, that the whole thing was exaggerated and it wasn't nearly as bad, and they kind of wrap up the whole exercise with like, oh, nobody wanted to hold anybody accountable or look backwards, and we all moved forward.
They ultimately actually write down that, okay, so we were wrong. The people are upset about that. And how are we going to use this to control them? Or how are we going to manipulate it so they're not upset anymore? Like, they're openly talking about that. That's their objective, to manipulate the people so they're not upset about the obvious thing that they did wrong. And people can read it for themselves. It's very interesting. Talking about scientists who are pointing to scientific studies, and they're going, they don't believe in the scientific method. It's like, it's just illogical. But the point is that people don't care. Like the 2016 point. It's not about facts and truth, right? You say something that's in this box and, I was told not to think about that, and that's what this is. They're driving things that should be a benefit or a positive into this negative corner because it polarizes people as they're the ones polarizing people.
Study simulation exercise that the authorities overestimated the fatality rate. And they even, they say that they were inflated. They don't even just say they got it wrong. They said they inflated the numbers. And that the CDC originally estimated that SPARS fatality rate was 4.7%, while the WHO said something like 14 to 15% for people over 50, 50% for people over 64. So these really high numbers. And then later, of course, they admit that like a more accurate estimate would be 0.6%. And it's interesting, I can't remember if I included this in the article as I was kind of working through it progressively through the storyline, but they while they upfront admit like, okay, well, because since this is written from somebody in 2030, right? So they're reflecting back, and so they were reflecting back and saying, yeah, we got the numbers way wrong, we overestimated. But throughout the whole experiment, the whole simulation, they continue to tell the people the wrong number, even after they realize. So, it's just, again, it's just so familiar to COVID and a lot of the things we're seeing. as far as the CDC and the WHO now, I'm sure your audience, everybody is familiar, of course, that the fatality rate is below 1%, for most people.
Here. Yeah. So this is the government gaming out what they will do. All right. So don't forget about that against people or with involving people. And they're basically saying, look, we told them this wrong number and then we got it wrong. Right. So think about how dumb it is that they game out that they got the numbers wrong. Like, why would you even do that? I mean, it's because you're seeding the idea to tie it with these things now and act like that's normal. Oh, well, even in their simulation, they got it wrong. It's like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And then, as you pointed out, they go forward as if it's the real number. They never really admit that to people. And it says right here, the report goes on to detail how public health and medical professionals were not successful in stopping the spread. And
it's this is why I thought, like, okay, this is a study that needs to get out there because it deals more specifically with how they're going to handle the vaccine response, the criticism of the vaccine, and admission that, again, neurological symptoms start showing up by the end of 2027. And it says after showing no adverse effects.
Remember the swine flu.
Several vaccine recipients, and I'm sure several, who knows how many that was in the simulation, began to show symptoms such as blurry vision, headaches, and numbness in their extremities. And they claim that, by 2030, it's still unclear if the vaccines cause this or not.
Yeah, right there, exactly, right. And it's
I think that we'll probably see a response like this where there's not very much admission of guilt or personal, taking of responsibility. I think if anything, I hate to say it and this is just me speculating, but based on what we've seen, I think in the coming years, the people who are injured from vaccines, that it will be blamed again on the people who question the vaccines, that they'll try to find a way to say that things got so bad because people wouldn't wear the mask. And if they had worn the mask, then maybe we would have been able to, even though now they're saying nothing's going to go away till the vaccines get there, then it'll be like, well, the vaccines came, but we wouldn't have had to do that if people were locking down and masks.
As always.
And it's and that's them actively, social engineering the whole situation through manipulation and lies. And I may have a little special guest popping in here in a little bit. But let me see. Mr. Thaddeus.
Shut up, Lou. Hey, what's going on, brother?
What's going on?
How
are you?
I've been better, but I'm doing all right, man. How are you doing?
I am drinking coffee on Sunday night, so that's probably good, right?
Why is that?
What?
Why?
Why what?
Are you drinking coffee on Sunday night?
Coffee.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love coffee.
Okay. Well, I do too, but I tend to want to wind down this time of night.
I just kind of go until I pass out these days,
Yes. All right. Well, more power to you. So what was the topic, man? I was in another stream, trying to.
Oh, we're talking about social engineering, and we're just getting into the to the meat of the potatoes of this whole thing. What was this crazy tabletop exercise that they did in 2017, and it was called echo chambers. And if you look at it, it's about how, it's extensive. It's multiple pages, but these guys, they broke it down a little bit. They go straight in and tell you that they manipulated the numbers, they inflated the numbers, they knew about it, but they still, kept it high so that they can proceed with these changes. But then but the real number of deaths was actually like 0.6, which is more similar to what we are at if you take everybody into account.
So the meat and potatoes of this being this tabletop exercise. Now, what organization was involved in this tabletop exercise? And obviously they were doing a tabletop exercise.
The same ones that
pertaining to like a.
So you have so the main one is going to be the John Hopkins. Let me look it up. The John Hopkins. Let me see where it is. It might actually be written down over here. So the John Hopkins International Security. It has a real distinct name. And they're involved in all of they're the ones that hosted the Event 201. They're the ones that hosted, a lot of the more known tabletop exercises. So they were involved in this one. I just did because I want to get to the one that's going to hopefully blow everybody's mind, which is this new tabletop that just happened in July of this year, and it pretty much predicts what could happen in the future. And I want everybody to know about these, because you have to use these things as kind of like a way to at least prep yourself for what's going to happen, because these things have been very accurate since, like I was telling people in my day, since PNAC, that document came out, and then those guys came in and did exactly what that was. So, I'm just saying that they always tell you what they're going to do. So these guys are social engineers, and once you figure this shit out, you can really look at their documents to tell you how they're trying to engineer the world too. And so that's where we're at. And that's where we're at.
So let's say we actually get to the meat and potatoes of this, and we figure out what's going on, and we can kind of war game out 6 months to a year about what they're planning based on what they ran in this exercise. How do we make money from it? How we get paid, though?
I think definitely having knowledge of how to create generators with running creek water, how to purify water, to have these types of knowledge that we could bestow on people just through conversations when they come to us for it. Things that'll help people survive, like how to germinate seeds. We really got to be like the holders of some seriously ancient knowledge that they may just, they burn all the books and they have these dumbass kids. It may take even us knowing what plants are away from us. So, at this point, all hands on deck, really. But to get back to what I was showing everybody is basically, these guys, they ran this tabletop, and you should just get into the details of it yourself. On it's 2017. I'll send you the links in the background for sure. But it was a 2017 echo chamber, and you can see the exact people who were involved. But it was similar people that were involved in most of these exercises. From like I told everybody before, whether it was Claudex in 2018 or Crimson Contagion, Event 201, Lockstep. There's a lot of things that you can, go back to that've been written on a global scale that you can relate all these situations to. Mm-hmm. So you got to just kind of read between the lines and understand this paradigm in order for you to see, kind of how it all is. But with that said, so we're into this thing, and they're gaming it all out. And in the gaming out, the simulation, they get the numbers wrong, like drastically wrong. And you probably didn't see. So let me see if I can help you out and go back to, I think it was 19. Yeah. So if I go back to here, let me see where
vaccines that they'll try to find a way to even after.
All right. So yeah. So if you look at these documents, that they link to, these guys do, and I'll shout out to independent researchers and shit. And I do a whole video at the end about them. But anyways, yeah. So if you look at this, they just really have a lot of shit that we can relate to what's going on now. And this was done in 2017. So the funny thing is when it gets to the end, it starts talking about vaccinations. And I started off the whole show with showing you about the swine flu vaccination, where they pretty much said, hey, everybody's got to get these. They ran a propaganda machine. Everybody got them. And then a lot of people got sick, like neurologically sick. And then here they say again that they're going to get neurologically sick and all these other consequences of doing these vaccines. And so they tell you, and they're playing with us, and they're experimenting, and they're trying this and they're trying that. And I just think it's time for us to really stand up and resist. So I'm just showing people how to watch them socially engineer us, divide and conquer us. And I'm trying to show people that they can go away from the mainstream media and really find truth. And at the very end, I'm going to show people how to directly get in contact with at least 30, good books, and also podcasts and people and independent researchers that are actually going through and digging this shit up. So, it's time to really ammo up when it comes to information, because I think this is going to be an information war. And that's where I'm at, so, soon I'm working on like what you're going to need to survive and shit, but anyways, in this thing, they also have this platform, and it's called ZapQ, right? No lie. This thing's called ZapQ. And this platform basically allows you to interface with all your social media in just one place. So then you can choose which one. So if a platform like that comes out, if you want to invest in something, that's the platform that you should invest in. Any company that's doing that, you jump on that because you know it's going to succeed because it's destined to succeed. And
definitely anything that's going to aggregate all these disparate sources of information.
Well,
social media in particular.
In this 2017 exercise, they predict a platform like that, and it's called ZapQ, and it's actually used to galvanize activists, and all activists use it, and it's almost amazing, and it's like an uptick in information being spread. You should read this document. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's their tabletop, of course, is not being mentioned, but if you really want to see it, this is it. And it's game, and simulations never prevent anything. Like they simulate it down to a T, and they still can prevent any of this. This is just them doing an open conspiracy. Do you know that book by H.G. Wells?
No. Which one? Open Conspiracy? I've never heard of it, if that's the name.
It's called, by H.G. Wells, it's called The Open Conspiracy. And he basically lays it out how they need to put it out in the open, so that way they can no longer do it the way they used to do it with violence and everything. They needed to put it out in the open and just let everybody accept it down at a subconscious level.
Okay.
And this is what I open it up with. But this is him. This is one of his quotes on this. If you want to, I'll read it out. It's like the character of the open conspiracy, the movement towards a world collective, will now be plainly displayed. It will have become a great world movement as widespread and evident as socialism or communism. It will largely have taken the place of these movements. It will be a world religion. And if you remember, Hitler once said that if you think this is just a political movement, you're wrong. This is a religion. This is a new religion. They all work together. They're all used to carry forward where they're trying to take us. So, and they played the long game, man. And I talked about, before this, I talked about the relationship. Like they basically created China, and now they're going to create this 21st century, Cold War with China. But they actually run both sides. They have USA and they have China. It's the same fucking people, and this is what they do worldwide. So it's them social engineering in real time, and I'm trying to show using their own documents, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But the ZapQ shit, it's almost with ZapQ being the name of this platform that's so important, it just makes me know that this QAnon was exact psyop. I mean, it's literally called.
A lot of people in my circles have kind of came to that conclusion.
Gotcha. So then let's keep it going, man. If you want to stick around, let's check this shit out real quick. I put this a little bit together. Now, this is the new tabletop exercise that they just recently did, and it is called Cyber Polygon, and it's kind of a World Economic Forum. It's the same fucking players, and now they're saying something called the cyber pandemic, and they're talking about all this crazy shit. So I really think you'll enjoy this, Dad.
Okay.
Our preparedness for a potential cyber pandemic.
Масштабы киберугроз сегодня таковы, что нейтрализовать их можно только вместе, объединив усилия всего международного сообщества.
That's Israel, basically.
So is this some sort of exercise? Or?
Yes, this is. But these are just the commercials for it. Like, this is their own shit about it internally. I watched like 4 hours of this shit to get to these. It's just a bunch of international people talking.
So my only question is, what products are they offering? Like, what are they trying to upsell cybersecurity specialists on? Because ultimately, this is what this is about. If you're going to war game this out and scare the hell out of CIOs and people who handle national infrastructure, you obviously need to upsell someone on a product. Who's sponsoring this?
So it's back and forth. So there's definitely those programs, and a lot of them are out of the DARPA situations and out of the military industrial complex here, that then gets stolen sometimes and taken to Israel, or often just given to Israel, because you've got to remember the Belt and Road Initiative. Israel's going to be the IT biosecurity part, and China is going to be the manufacturing part of this Belt and Road Initiative. So all of these things are going to basically use the idea of viruses again to basically collapse the internet, to get the internet down into a way more controlled situation, because it has to be controlled because of all these cyber attacks. So what they're going to start doing in the next year is they're going to start taking down power grids and all of this stuff. And that's when you get into the actual exercise of what they tried. These are just the fancy commercials for it. But when you get into what they actually gamed out, it's a lot of financial attacks of everybody losing their how much money they had, bricked servers, and then also just a reset when it comes to internet. And so basically what they're going to do is they're going to start creating this new thing. It's not just ISPs. There's going to be another thing that validates and verifies your access to the internet. So it's going to be like a point before you get to it. So, what they're just doing is that they're just creating this, they're social engineering this. And that's the points that I'm trying to tell you. And that's why I'm trying to use their own language to be able to understand them. So let's watch the last, there's like a couple more. Let me see. Yeah. Yeah, there's one more. And this is Cyber Polygon. This is just, go out and look it up. Read it.
2020 is a year that has really changed the world. It is thanks to technology that we are able to join the Cyber Polygon entirely remotely.
This training is another step in creating a trusted digital environment and fostering open dialogue to discuss even the most challenging cybersecurity issues.
Nobody can fight these phenomena, which are only going to increase in the next couple of years in this dynamic technological environment.
As this world grows in force, and this happens throughout the world, it's just a statement of the obvious. You need to protect people properly.
And so, they're basically just telling you right there. So what do you think?
I could see this being a Trojan horse for something much more sinister. It all starts out pretty good. As we move more to a cyber-like world, there will need to be cooperation across borders to kind of institute, I don't know,
this is
some sort of NATO alliance and stuff like that, about, making sure that we have interoperability of rules and regulations across borders that would allow the institution of this, the remedying of whatever, a kind of cyber Cold War, to make sure that bad actors don't use these weapons against each other, stuff like that. Yeah, this is pretty standard for the relentless march toward globalization that we are inevitably stuck with.
Thaddeus, what I'm trying to tell you though is that if you want to see what's about to happen,
No. I know what's
and they say this. They say that what's going to happen. They called it a cyber pandemic, and they said it's going to wipe out. They're saying that there's cyber hackers out there.
Yeah,
but
no.
just them. It's
They
them
are.
creating the problem, then having
Yes.
a solution, and it's all problem reaction solution. But they
Well,
have.
I understand.
So okay, so now listen.
I'm
to
not
this.
going to go down that road. I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
this is what I'm doing.
it's good to know that there are people who are going to take advantage of the next time they purposely or they don't understand what they have unleashes on the world, and it does cause irreparable harm
Oh my god.
to cyber infrastructure that then inclines them to lock down even more.
Mm-hmm.
But this is you're right again. I don't take it to your conclusion, but you're right again. Just like the Great Reset, which is something they've been talking about for a couple of years, and we've now seen with this pandemic. I'm not going to argue whether or not it's on purpose or not, but they have definitely taken advantage of the opportunity
right.
to do all the things.
It's the same guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Together, and they said that there's something that's even worse, and they've already played it out. So just go look it up and look at the details. And
no. Now I know how to make money. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now I know what to look up so I can make some money.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I look. I'm in this world. It is a plethora of. It's a very target-rich environment for them as they integrate more and more of IT infrastructure into our everyday lives. Oh yeah, someone could definitely on purpose, nefariously, or by accident unleash a cyber pandemic.
Right. So now you have these cyber pandemics that could happen to the infrastructure now. And you know that Elon Musk wants to put chips in your head called the Neuralink. And we also have the ID 2020. And if you think the ID 2020 is bullshit, you need to check this shit out, because this is your
true that the issue of
Congress people.
Is growing more and more relevant as our economy becomes increasingly reliant on the digital space. And as was mentioned,
Can you hear it okay?
serve as the chair of the Financial Services Committee's task force on artificial intelligence, where, among other things, we had a hearing dedicated to issues with digital identity, which are really at the heart of so many questions in financial services and just life online. And the COVID-19 crisis has really called to attention the urgency of discussing many of these challenges about proving digital identity, and specifically what should be done by Congress to ensure that identities are protected.
Of course.
COVID pandemic has laid bare a large number of areas where we have to raise our game to promote a secure digital identity. Just generally the increased vulnerability to identity fraud as more and more consumer spending moves online. The potential need for things like digital immunity certificates or certificates to demonstrate vaccination or antibody immunity, which remain very controversial. And also the more general problem of authenticating yourself for access to medical records, in which we've actually had some legislative progress there. Secure voting and proving that you are actually eligible to vote and proving your identity at a polling place is an obvious application of a provable digital identity that probably we could stand some improvement there too. Central bank digital currencies and other digital assets, I think, will be one of the things that really drive this field in the coming years. I'm happy to talk for all of my time about our efforts to promote central bank digital currencies. But it's, you can have the most secure blockchain in existence, and it does you no good if people are operating with fraudulent identities on it. And the need for government, just all by itself, its needs to connect digitally to everyone, including those who are traditionally underbanked. This came through in a big way when we said, okay, we're going to have these stimulus per capita payouts. And we found we did not have a list of U.S. citizens who are eligible. And so to try to get this all started, I recently introduced a bill with 4 bipartisan
Thaddeus, do you have anything to say before we continue?
It's a typical overeducated, because he's a physicist, overeducated plutocrat who thinks that ultimately government has a role in absolutely everything.
And he's
the whole point of a blockchain is a ultimate ledger to actually secure against these identity issues.
They'll talk about it. Watch.
Authors on the bill, H.R. 8215, the Improving Digital Identity Act of 2020, with Representatives Katko, Langton, and Loudermilk. And if enacted, this bill would take a number of steps to really prioritize the development of digital ID in this country, and starting with just bringing key stakeholders together. It would establish a digital identity task force within the Executive Office of the President that would include members from key departments and administrations such as Treasury, State,
Homeland Security, Office of Management and Budget, Social Security Administration, NIST, and GSA. So you might wonder why GSA is there, since they can't apparently even count votes, but I won't go there. This would direct NIST to develop a framework of standards, methodologies, procedures, and processes as a guide for all levels of government to follow when providing services related to digital identity verification. And it would also establish a new grant program at DHS to help states jumpstart the modernization of systems that use things like digital driver's licenses and other types of identity credentials. You know, the future of this in most people's eyes are the smartphone, and the combination of the smartphone and a person and a person's biometrics to really be the first, second, and third line of defense against identity fraud. And there are impressive techniques already in a modern smartphone, with better ones in the pipeline. Is you have to go and mark up a bunch of old documents to fraudulently make a history for the people that you want to put in your witness protection program or whatever. And so that issues like that, get complicated fast.
So let me tell you that problem has an analog, which you'll appreciate, which arose out of GDPR and the European privacy standards that included a legal right to be forgotten in the digital public domain.
Which makes no sense. Certainly in a blockchain world, it makes no sense.
Well, exactly. So, in fact, there are some solutions that have been worked on in order to address that, but that's a story for another day. So,
well, it's also very important because in the whole space of digital contracts, that I think it will be necessary for high-value digital contracts that they be backed by a court system that you trust. All right, and that is a competitive advantage of the free world. If I'm going to own my house, I do not want the contract that guarantees that ownership have the court of last resort in China. Okay, I just don't. All right. Whereas I will tolerate the United States and Canada. I'll probably tolerate Great Britain, but there's a rather short list of countries where I think I trust the court system, and so that means that the court has to have the ability to reverse digital contract, which means they have to have a very carefully guarded digital key that gives them a backdoor to.
And that's the key. They want a backdoor into all of this shit. And this shit's going to go from your phone and it's going to go into a little chip. And then the chip's going to be something that's also interacts with your biometrics and monitors a lot of other shit that they just don't need to know. And so they have it kind of mapped out, from these vaccines to the ID 2020, and it's going to turn our police state that we know we live in into a biosecurity, technocracy. So, what do you think? I mean, it seems pretty obvious to me.
This is a technological terror state building in the slow motion way that we all suspected it would. Be it from the dystopian science fiction that we've all grown up with to the utopian science fiction that makes sense. This makes sense on the surface if one is a plebe or a pleb, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And this is, kind of a future of convenience, absolute security by mathematics, safety, yada, yada, yada. What the failure of this is, first and foremost, he's a government bureaucrat. He's a government representative, and he's always going to push for power. Two, he's an engineer. He's a physicist and engineer, which means he only looks at the practical application of doing this, and his mindset is, well, the government actually has to have some sort of. We need an ultimate arbiter of whatever. When the actual, if you read the Satoshi paper and you understand how blockchains work and these digital ledgers work, the whole point of it is trustless, and it does not need backdoors. The block secures itself. The chain of blocks, hence blockchain, secures itself.
But if they have some sort of override that.
Well, yeah, they're always. Here's the deal: the dirty little secret about states is they're always going to have a backdoor in, whether they are given it voluntarily by its sheer extortion, because any company, corporation, organization that exists within a territory for which someone holds a monopoly on violence, extortion, they will ultimately get that back key, or they'll just take it. It's not like they don't hire the best and the brightest to go back and create backdoors anyway. So the question is, do we want them to be transparent about it, or do we want to fight as hard as we can to make sure that they never have backdoors? There's still encryption methods that the government doesn't have backdoors to yet, but that doesn't mean that they're not working behind the scenes to get those. That's one. Two, digital IDs. I think I would prefer them to be handled by private organizations before I would allow the government to do so. But here's the deal. That ship sailed many, many years ago when they created Social Security numbers.
Right.
And of course now with all it's funny, I was just having a conversation with some friends of mine about the world pre 9/11. Post 9/11, the anti-money laundering laws that exist and the documentation that is required to even maintain any sort of financial standing across any financial platform today requires an ID. There's nothing you can really do about it. The promise of a blockchain and maybe cryptocurrencies or a market and free market and money is that maybe, just maybe, that's something you keep and that you authenticate across a public ledger.
That is.
I don't know if that ultimately happens.
I have we're just about at the end, but can you instead let your mind go into the paradigm that I was trying to create, where you see this rollout of the of the masks to the vaccines to the lockouts to the to the next thing you know, it's these IDs on your phone that's going to do the contact tracing and all of the security and the biometrics, and then they're already taking your temperature. They're getting your head already kind of used to that shit. And it's all of this is going to be into one place, and they're going to tie in your financial. Then they're going to tie in your social credit score. Then it's all going to be saved on a chip that was on your phone, and then it's going to eventually go inside of you. And would you let your mind go that it's not about, because the thing is like, you think this is all per chance and just the best and the brightest are going to win out. And we know that that's not the case. Like, that this is all under control. This is all being done. Like, even as you're destroying an economy in America, they're creating these other things to work in unison. Like, this is not something to take lightly. So as you see it unveil and you see what they say and you see that they come true constantly. Like I said, from PNAC to several other times that they've predicted their nefarious open conspiracy. So what I'm saying is, as social engineers, they're taking us somewhere. And that somewhere is a more debased and a more dehumanized version of humanity. Do you see that with the technology unveiling the way it is?
Of course. And here's what I'll scare the hell out of everyone else who's watching. It's going to happen one way or the other. Because here's the deal. It's never sold to you as something that the government needs to do, and that ultimate people who have ultimate authority and power over said government is going to do. It's going to be sold to you as convenience.
Of course, that's what it always is. And I think that's
no. My mind can go there. Yeah, no.
And that's and I think on that note, I think that's probably the best place to leave it on. I'll just give you a little Thaddeus. Stick around if you can. I'm just gonna take you off here. So I have here, like I said, this clip that I have coming up. It's basically a montage of all of the websites and all of the different platforms and all the different little things that I use to gather up all these information. You got to go to the historical shit and you got to tie it all into what's going on now. And so that's what's coming up here. And I really. There's a lot of books out there. There's a lot of times that they tell you, what it is that's going on, and it's not a conspiracy theory, but simply a conspiracy. And corporations are legalized monarchies. Corporate foundations and sponsorships have had a profound effect on our conversation and our discord, and so we have to dig into the history of it all, the origins of things. And information war is upon us, and we have to do our part in gathering that information. Even if it's a couple of DIY kits or anything, just make yourself useful when it comes to information. And you know, like we've been under attack, and this is definitely the last phase. And that's the show. Going to, you know, please show love to the sponsors. Don't forget shop.flickwick.com for 20% off. Definitely make sure to visit them. And yeah, you know, use the promo code if you find an error in today's show. I'll send you a free Flickwick if I agree or cannot convince you otherwise. And, you know, we're the underdog, so don't forget, visit all the affiliated show pages, subscribe, like, follow, share, talk about it. KY5, Gaming, ACTJ. Visit TMI to stay up to date on all of those. And take care and good night.
Until we learn that we burn and if the hatred keeps up.
We're gonna restart that.
Okay. I know what you was thinking. It sucks we had to sample R. Kelly to begin with, but look, I wish the world wasn't the way it was. I was afraid of UFOs, but I realized they afraid of us. Evil is the man, is mankind itself. It's in the name, but we're only ever kind to ourselves. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish the arms on our wrist stopped to turn and get stuck until we learn that we burn and if the hatred keeps up. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. We stop to celebrate the scholars. Instead we pray to dollars. Never lost faith, but now we worshiping our wallets. I'm forever falling, got it tatted cause it's promised. I'm in my own space, but like the planets and the comets and the projects, I can feel the cold coming. Lil' homie had the stick and he only 12 or something. It's not even uncommon being lost and wanting nothing. The dark time is approaching, I can feel the earth rumbling. My mama used to tell me, young spark, stay young. You grow up like your daddy, you gon' learn to love nothing. I saw her hide her tears as she cried and she was mumbling. To live is to suffer, to survive is to find a meaning in the suffering. Then she hugged. Back on the streets I go, that's all I know. Sell back so money can go, nowhere to go. Get to the whip back home, that's all I know. Clap back and off the road, nowhere to go. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish it's easy to look back like. I wish I said this, I did that right. If I had known, I could have been living up to that light. It's all regrets, some ups and downs. My life is like a fucking half fight. Still I'm having dreams of climbing up these trenches. I pull up on my people and we all pull up a business. But still I'm having dreams of my people's breaking fences. To value what we love, not to care what's most expensive. I fight within. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I didn't have to wish so much. I wish I